In the previous tutorial, I took this web-based train simulation and made it interactive. The user has to click the ground plane for the train to travel around the track. It stops once, but starts again without any user input. In this tutorial, I'll show you how to give the user more control over the train. This time, the train waits at the first stop until the user clicks again. The starting point for this tutorial is the file made in the previous tutorial. You can download the file from my website, or you can follow my other tutorials and make a similar file yourself. Drag to make the timeline window bigger and change the window to a dope sheet window. Clicking on a strip in the NLA editor and pressing the Tab key to go into tweak mode, we see the keyframes of the action linked to the strip. These keyframes store the location and rotation of the engine as it travels from the start to the first stop. Then there is a gap when the train is stationary. Then the train travels from the first stop back to the start. But I don't want one long action. I want two separate actions. One for the train traveling from the start to the first stop, and the other for the train travelling from the first stop back to the start. Press the Tab key to toggle out of tweak mode, and duplicate. Hold down Shift, press D and enter. That creates a duplicate strip that is linked to a new duplicate action, action 004. Select the original strip and press the Tab key to go into tweak mode. Select any keyframe from the second block and press B for B select, and select all the keyframes in the second block. Press X and delete keyframes. With the mouse pointer in the NLA editor, press the Tab key to toggle out of tweak mode. Select the duplicate strip and drag it so that it starts at frame 130. Click to release. In the action clip panel, set the start frame to 130. Press the Tab key to go into tweak mode. Select a keyframe from the first block. Press B to go into B select. Drag to select all the keyframes from the first block. Press X, delete keyframes, and press Tab to toggle out of tweak mode. I have jumped ahead and duplicated action strip 2 and action strip 1. I just have action strip 3 to duplicate. Select, Shift D and enter. Select the original strip, press Tab to go into tweak mode. Select a keyframe, press B, drag, press X, delete keyframes, press Tab to toggle out of tweak mode. Select the duplicate strip, drag to frame 130, click to release, and set the start frame to 130. Press Tab for tweak mode, select a keyframe, press B, drag, press X and delete keyframes, press Tab to toggle out of tweak mode. We now have two actions for the engine and two actions for each of the carriages. And that's all we need to do in the Blender file. I've jumped ahead and made a Blend for Web project called My Train Game 2. Now we need to overwrite the dummy Blender file and use it to overwrite the dummy JSON file. Back in Blender, File, Save As, go to the Blend for Web folder, the Projects folder, the My Train Game 2 folder, Blender folder, click on the file and Save As to overwrite it. File, Export, Blend for Web JSON. Make sure you're in the Train Game 2 Assets folder, click on the JSON file and click Export to overwrite it. Next, I'm going to set up the code to control the train. Click the Edit link. Click the link for the JavaScript file, the .js file. Here I have the finished code open in a text editor. You can download the file from my website, or you can type in the code yourself. Next, I'm going to copy over the code needed to control the train, highlight the extra modules and the global variables, right-click, copy, click, right-click and paste. Scrolling to the end of the file, in the load callback function, there is a comment, place your code here. In the finished file, in the load callback function, there are 2 lines of code to copy over. Copy, click, right-click and paste. The lines add an event listener for a mouse down, a mouse click event, and when the mouse is clicked, the main canvas clicked callback function is called. Next, we have to copy over the callback function. In the finished file, highlight the function. Right-click, copy. Click, right-click and paste. I will go through the function, but for now, let's see if it all works. Click Save and back to Projects. Click the link for the HTML web page. If it doesn't load or it doesn't work properly, see my web console tutorial for basic debugging. Now the train waits at the first stop until the user clicks the ground plane again for the train to complete the journey. Going back to Project Manager to look at the JavaScript code, there is one global variable at start which is set to an initial value of true. Scrolling down to look at the main canvas clicked callback function. First, we get the X and Y coordinates of the mouse pointer when the canvas was clicked. If there is a 3D object underneath the mouse pointer, then it is stored in obj. If not, obj is null. If the object's name is ground, if the user has clicked the ground plane, then we do the block of code in the if statement. Engine is the name of the train engine in the Blender scene. We get a link to the object and store it in engine. For our simple train track, there are 3 states: the train waiting at the start, the train waiting at the first stop, and the train in motion. This if statement is only executed if the train is not in motion, so therefore it must be at the start or at the first stop. This means that if you click the ground plane while the animation is playing, nothing will happen. These are the names of the carriage objects in the Blender scene, and we need to get links to the objects. If the train is at the start, the engine and its carriages will be linked to these actions, and these actions will take the train from the start to the first stop. Every time the function is called, if at start is true, it will be set to false. else it must be false and it will be set to true. If at start is false, then these actions will be linked to the engine and the carriages. These actions will take the train from the first stop back to the start. We have only linked actions to objects. We have to use the play function to play the action's animation. It is important to set the animation behavior to finish stop. We want the train to stay at its destination when the animation finishes playing. And finally, each time the train is animated, we want to play the train sound effect. That's the end of the tutorial. I'll put the files used in the tutorial for you to download at my website. To visit my website, click the eye icon in the top right hand corner. To subscribe, click the stickman. To sponsor my tutorials, click the Patreon link. Thanks for watching and goodbye.